In the small town of Wida, a group of friends had grown up together. From their secondary school days to their university years, they had shared laughter, tears, and countless memories. However, after graduation, life took a harsh turn. The friends, who had once dreamed of changing the world, found themselves struggling to make ends meet. They had applied to countless jobs, but none had yielded a positive response. The town, once full of promise and opportunity, had become a desolate landscape of unemployment and desperation. One of the friends, a tall and charismatic young man named Aziz, had grown tired of the endless rejection. He had always been the optimist of the group, but the harsh realities of their situation had taken its toll. Aziz made the difficult decision to leave Wida in search of greener pastures. Months went by, and the friends heard nothing from Aziz. They assumed he was doing well, but they had no idea what he was going through. Aziz had traveled to a distant city, where he had become embroiled in a mysterious and sinister world. A world that promised wealth and power, but at a steep price. Back in Wida, the friends were struggling to survive. One of them, a quiet and reserved young man named Tano, was facing a particularly difficult time. His mother, who had always been his rock, was battling a severe case of asthma. The medication was expensive, and Tano's family couldn't afford it. As Tano's mother lay in bed, gasping for air, Tano felt helpless. He had tried everything to raise the money, but it seemed like an impossible task. That was when he remembered Aziz, his friend who had left Wida months ago. Tano had heard rumors that Aziz was doing well, that he had found a way to make a lot of money. Tano decided to reach out to Aziz, hoping that he could help him save his mother's life. Tano sent a message to Aziz, hoping against hope that his friend would respond. Days turned into weeks, and Tano heard nothing. He had almost given up when he received a call from an unknown number. "Tano, it's Aziz," the voice on the other end said. "I heard about your mother. I'm so sorry." Tano's eyes welled up with tears as he explained his mother's condition to Aziz. Aziz listened attentively, and when Tano finished speaking, he said, "I can help you, Tano. But you have to be careful. The way I make my money is not conventional." Tano's curiosity was piqued. "What do you mean?" he asked. "I'll tell you when you come to see me," Aziz replied. "But be warned, Tano, once you know, there's no going back." Tano hesitated for a moment. He had always known Aziz to be a good person, but there was something in his voice that sent a shiver down his spine. Still, he had to try. For his mother's sake, he had to take the risk. "Okay, Aziz," Tano said finally. "I'll come to see you." Aziz gave Tano an address, and they agreed to meet the following day. Tano spent the rest of the day in a daze, wondering what Aziz was involved in and whether he was making a terrible mistake. The next day, Tano made his way to the address Aziz had given him. It was a luxurious mansion on the outskirts of town, surrounded by high walls and security cameras. Tano felt a sense of unease as he approached the gate, but he steeled himself and rang the bell. The gate swung open, and a burly man in a suit ushered Tano into the mansion. Tano's eyes widened as he took in the opulent decorations and lavish furnishings. He had never seen anything like it before. Aziz greeted Tano warmly and led him to a private room deep within the mansion. The room was dimly lit, and the air was thick with the scent of incense. "Tano, I know you're desperate for money," Aziz said, his voice low and serious. "But I have to warn you, what I'm about to show you is not for the faint of heart. Are you sure you're ready for this?" Tano hesitated, feeling a sense of trepidation. But he thought of his mother, lying in bed, struggling to breathe. He nodded, and Aziz led him deeper into the mansion, to a secret room that few people knew existed. As they entered the room, Tano saw a group of people gathered around a large, ornate box. They were all dressed in white robes, and their eyes seemed to gleam with an otherworldly intensity. Aziz took Tano's arm and led him closer to the box. "This is the source of my wealth," he whispered. "But it comes at a terrible cost. Are you prepared to pay the price?" Tano felt a chill run down his spine as he gazed at the box. He had no idea what was inside, but he knew that he was taking a risk by being there. He looked at Aziz and saw that his friend's eyes were filled with a mixture of warning and temptation. "What's inside the box?" Tano asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Tano's heart was racing as he gazed at the box. He had a feeling that he was about to uncover a dark secret, something that would affect his life forever. Aziz nodded to one of the robed figures, who stepped forward and opened the box. A puff of smoke emerged, and Tano coughed as he felt a strange, pungent odor fill the air. As the smoke cleared, Tano saw a figure sitting inside the box. It was a woman, extremely fat, with large breasts that seemed to sag under their own weight. Weeds appeared to be growing out of her breasts, adding to her grotesque appearance. Her eyes were open, unblinking, and filled with a look of pure terror. Her face was twisted in a grimace, and her skin was slick with sweat. Tano felt a wave of revulsion wash over him as he gazed at the woman. She looked like something out of a nightmare, a monstrous creature from a dark and twisted world. Aziz stepped forward, a look of reverence on his face. "This is Ziba," he said, his voice low and respectful. "She is the source of our power, the key to our wealth and success." Tano was horrified. "What do you mean?" he demanded. "How can this creature be the source of your power?" Aziz smiled, his eyes glinting with a sinister light. "Ziba is not just any ordinary woman," he said. "She is a vessel, a conduit for dark and ancient powers. And we have learned to harness those powers, to use them for our own gain." Tano felt a chill run down his spine as he realized the true nature of Aziz's wealth. He had always suspected that something was not quite right, but he had never imagined anything like this. "What do you want from me?" Tano asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Aziz's smile grew wider. "We want you to join us," he said. "We want you to become a part of our circle, to share in our power and our wealth." Tano's mind was reeling as he tried to process what Aziz was asking of him. He had always thought of Aziz as a friend, but now he wasn't so sure. "What do I have to do?" Tano asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Aziz's smile grew even wider. "You have to suckle from Ziba's breast," he said, his voice dripping with an otherworldly enthusiasm. "It's the only way to tap into her power, to become a part of our circle." Tano felt a wave of revulsion wash over him as he gazed at Ziba's breast. It was a disgusting, festering mass, covered in open sores and dripping with a foul-smelling discharge. Maggots crawled out of the wounds, their tiny bodies wriggling in the dim light. The air was thick with the stench of rot and decay, and Tano's stomach churned with nausea. "How can you expect me to do this?" Tano asked, his voice shaking with disgust. It's monstrous." Aziz's smile never wavered. "This is Sam, my friend," he said. "This is the heart of darkness, where the old gods still whisper in the wind. This is where the true power lies, and this is what you must do to tap into it." Tano felt a shiver run down his spine as he gazed at Ziba. She seemed to be watching him, her eyes gleaming with a malevolent light. He knew that he was taking a terrible risk, but he also knew that he had no choice. He had to do this, no matter how disgusting it seemed. With a sense of resignation, Tano reached out and touched Ziba's breast. The maggots crawled out of the wounds, onto his fingers, and he felt a wave of revulsion wash over him. But he steeled himself, took a deep breath, and began to suckle from the festering mass. Tano's eyes were fixed on Arachne, his mind reeling with the implications of what Aziz had just told him. He couldn't believe that his friend was involved in something so dark and sinister. As he stood there, frozen in horror, Aziz began to explain the ritual that they would have to perform in order to harness Ziba's power. Tano listened, his heart sinking with each passing moment. The ritual, Aziz explained, involved sucking the milk from Ziba's breasts. The milk, he claimed, contained the dark energy that would grant them wealth and power. Tano felt a wave of nausea wash over him as he listened to Aziz's words. He couldn't believe that his friend was asking him to participate in such a disgusting and depraved ritual. But as he looked at Ziba, he saw something that made his blood run cold. The woman's eyes, which had seemed lifeless and empty just moments before, were now fixed intently on him. And in those eyes, Tano saw a glimmer of malevolence, a spark of evil that seemed to be growing by the second. Tano felt a chill run down his spine as he gazed into Ziba's eyes. He couldn't believe that he was being asked to participate in a ritual that involved this creature. Aziz seemed to sense Tano's hesitation, and he stepped forward, his eyes gleaming with an unnatural intensity.